Welcome to the podcast, The Story Behind the Song with Denny Carleton and Friends. On this podcast, you will hear stories, listen to archived interviews from Denny's previous radio show, The Cleveland Music Connection, and hear what Denny and his friends are up to now. So here is my favorite singer, songwriter, recording artist, author, music teacher, radio personality, Denny Carleton.
Hey, thank you, Brenda. You're too kind. Today's a special show in a sense that I interview other people, and it came to my mind, and it was suggested to me that I should get interviewed. So I have a good friend named Bob Soeder. We've done a lot of different things together. We could talk about him another time, but Bob does a really nice job, and he just interviews me, and I'm going to do that like every 5 or 6 shows. I'll come on and talk about my music history, and then we'll go back to interviewing other people. So here is the interview that we did and we taped, and it's Bob Soeder interviewing me about my childhood and the Lost Souls.
So, Denny, even though you're the host of Music Connection and great show, we'll be part of listening to that. But for those who don't know you very well, who are maybe joining us for the first time, how about just a little bit of your background? Like tell us a little bit about your writing and composing and how that came to be.
Yeah, I started music back in the 1960s, 1965. We ended up, a group of us guys took guitar lessons and music lessons, and we ended up having a band called the Lost Souls. And then we, from that, I joined the band The Choir, which was regional. It's cold outside. You know that one, right? It's cold outside. All that.
And the rain. Oh, yeah.
Right. And so then I was in that band, and it's rock and roll. That band, my time ended there, and I ended up being in a band called Moses, which was rock theatrical. And that we toured miniature tours, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I ended up, then I had an experience with God in my own way. I got committed to the church. I had what's called the baptism of the Holy Spirit. I kind of committed myself to Christ. And then after that time, it was kind of like figuring out how to do my music and also be active in the church. That was sort of my thing, because I had a background with music, playing. And so then from there, that was finding my way. I played in different bands in the 70s. And then I started in the 80s. I started playing more in not bands doing all originals, but being more, making a little bit of money on the side and putting out my own music in the 80s. Got music played on college radio. Then I started working as a music teacher, and I ended up getting my music out to different college radio stations. And then from then on, I've been pretty much a solo acoustic player, still playing in church. I've ended up writing music for plays and music for masses, and so that's it.
Wow,
does that make sense?
Yes, it does. That's quite a journey. Maybe we ought to break this down a little bit, because there's just much here.
I also did radio for 6 or 7 years, where I interviewed people too. So that's part of this broadcast, this podcast. I always like bring in. A lot of times, I'll bring in some of the archives of radio interviews I did with local musicians.
Oh yeah, but I think we need to hear more about Denny Carleton.
Here's a song called "Josephine" by the Lost Souls.
Today, woman.
Okay, so why don't you tell us a little bit about your childhood? We'll kind of move through and into your first band, the Lost Souls.
Well, I was born in Cleveland, and the only thing that I remember, my father, when I was like 5 or 6, he had some depression for a while, probably like all of us have, but I took it very seriously. And from that time on, I started to write. I started to write little stories, and I started inventing sports games and writing a lot. And so that the only thing besides that I remember being a little different, I was run over by a car.
Oh, my. Obviously, you're okay.
I'm okay.
Was the car okay?
Yeah. My sister was playing in a car. She ended up sitting like she was going to drive, and she bumped the steering wheel and everything, and it ran over me. And then I got better, and I didn't break any bones or anything. It actually ran over my legs.
Oh, thank goodness.
And I
not
walked
that
normal.
Say it ran over your leg, but thank goodness that it didn't break any bones.
Thank you. Thank goodness.
So then you went on and you played music and
not away. When I was like a kid, I didn't really play any music, but I wrote little stories. Even when I was like 8 or 9, I wrote little journals. I wrote like I was going to be a writer. I started to write, not so much playing music, but I just started to write a lot.
When did music start entering into the picture for you?
When I was about when the Beatles came on television. My friend Larry Tomczak and I saw the Beatles, and we both sort of wanted to be like that. So we were in high school, freshmen, sophomores, and we took lessons for about 9 months, a whole group of us, and that ended up forming my first band, the Lost Souls.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about the Lost Souls.
Well, before the Lost Souls, though, you know, when I was a kid, I ended up got to the point when right before we took the music lessons, I got to the point that I was playing baseball, and the coach wouldn't play me, and I said, "Please play me or trade me." And I was a little kid, and eventually he said, "We got room for you in the future for sure, Will." And I decided that none of that was true, and I ended up playing the guitar, seeing the Beatles, and I said goodbye to baseball. Matter of fact, I have a song called Rock of Love, and maybe we could play that. It's the Rock of Love. It's just a little bit about my youth. There's Rodney Crowell, the great Texas songwriter, wrote a lot of things about his own youth, the Houston Kid, which inspired me to say, well, why not use that topic? And so I have a little song called Rock of Love. So let's hear a little bit of that.
Let's hear a little bit.
When I was a kid in Little League, I said, "Coach, trade or play me." So I put down my glove, picked up my guitar. I didn't know where I fit. I didn't know if to stand or sit. I was looking for the fire that had been lit. But then came faith on the wings of a dove, sent down.
So did you have like any inspiration, like family or friends or anything that really helped trigger you into writing, or how did you pick up on that?
I remember reading about Ray Bradbury once, and he said when he was a kid, he used to write, and he wrote, and one day someone said, you can't just be writing about dinosaurs, and you can't draw pictures of dinosaurs with different colors. So he quit doing it for a couple of weeks, and then he got depressed, and then he decided to go and write again and do it however he wanted, and he said he was happy ever since. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of like that for me. When I think of not writing, I feel like I was depressed or I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. So I had that. But I found out years later that I was related to Will Carleton. Will Carleton was the poet laureate of Michigan. And I found out about his books. And he was from 1845 to 1912. And I read like all of his books. Matter of fact, I'm in the process of writing a play about Will Carleton, because his songs fit in so much for today. And why don't we just listen to a couple? But Will Carleton, I believe, I can't say that I have his genes, but I have a similar passion to a lot of the things that I do, and that's the only thing I can think of in my background that has any kind of literary or musical feel to it. And I think it's so. I put a couple of his songs. His lyrics, one Over the Hill to the Poorhouse and Betsy and I Are Out, and many other songs, I put them to music. So why don't we just listen to a little bit of those two tunes?
Sure, sounds good.
Okay.
True, I'm not so supple, nor awful stout, but charity's not a favor that one can live without. Once I was handsome, I was upon my soul. Once my cheeks were roses, my eyes black as coal. But I can't remember hearing people say, for any kind of reason, that I was in the way. Over the hill to the poorhouse, over the hill to the poorhouse. We together that we can't never agree. Draw up the papers, lawyers, make 'em good and stout. Things at home are crossways, Betsy and I are out.
So, Denny, we've heard a lot about your first band, the Lost Souls, and I just think that that's a really interesting name. How did you guys come up with the name Lost Souls?
Larry Tomczak, the original, or the drummer of the Lost Souls, saw a movie, a science fiction movie called Island of the Lost Souls. And that was it.
So, well, you know, sometimes those little inspirations can take you a long way. You never know where it's going to lead. So tell us about the Lost Souls.
Well, the Lost Souls in maybe 63 or 64, right after the Beatles came to the United States, Larry Tomczak said that he wanted to start a band with me, and we both got excited about it. So we were all at St. Joseph High School. We were all in the same grade. And there was a Larry and Chuck McKinley and I, Rich Schonauer, and Ed Gazowski. We all decided to take music lessons. There were a couple other kids. It was all boys school, and we were all 9th, 10th grade. And we took lessons at Dick Soldiers on East 185th for 9 months, and then we started the band.
Wow.
And I've been doing pretty much the same kind of thing since then, since 1965. And then about 9 months after the band got going, Denny Merrick, who was in a band called the RDs, who used to go on local television shows and already was a guitar teacher at the age of 15 or 16.
Wow.
He was in our grade. He lived across the street from me, and he liked us, and he left his band, the RDs, which were very popular, to join this upstart band, the Lost Souls, and that just made us take off because Denny was really good. He was a guitar teacher. He showed me a lot of things on the guitar. Without Denny, I wouldn't have gone as fast as I had, or I'm sure the band wouldn't have. And it was, that Ed Gazowski and Larry and Denny played for a while, and after about a year, Ed left the band. I don't really actually remember how that happened, that he left the band, but I know that he left the band. I don't think we threw him out. I think he just felt like Denny had kind of done taken his place. I can't speak for Ed, but that was it. And then the band went on from there.
Oh, and you played locally? Did you tour? Did you...
Lost Souls played locally. We were very popular in Cleveland back then. There was the East and the West Side, which there still is that nowadays. But back then, I always call it the melting pot that didn't melt. There were different areas, and like the Mods on the East Side, which was the band that eventually became the Choir. They were very British. We had that British sound going on, but we also had a sax and a flute. Rich Schonauer played sax and flute, so we were able to do Motown music like Midnight Hour and that kind of thing. So we played all over town. We could cross over to a lot of different sections of the town. So we played locally, and we ended up playing with the Lemon Pipers, Bobby V, the Shangri-Las, and the McCoys. Those are bands we kind of opened or played on the same bill with, but we played, and the MC5, we played locally mostly, but we played 2 or 3 times a week.
Well, that's good for starting off for just a little high school kind of garage band to get to that notoriety,
Yeah, we played. We played. I think we still probably all have attendance records at our high school. We had about 2,000 kids at a dance once. We played many places. To put it in perspective, as a junior and a senior, I went to Catholic school, and I'm not sure, Catholic schools can get very expensive nowadays, but whatever it was then was fairly expensive, and I ended up paying for my own education as a junior and senior for money I made. I probably made about $150 a week back then. We played 3 times a week, basically.
Back in the 60s, $100 a week.
150.
That was a lot of money.
Yeah, we would play all. They used to have a lot of CYOs, KSCs, CYO Catholic Youth Organizations. They all had dances. Can you imagine that nowadays? But they had dances everywhere. So I think the amount of money that I made put in perspective. We were very popular, and we ended up playing at the Teen Fair, and we were in competition with bands like the James Gang with Joe Walsh and those kind of things, and we finished fourth out of the city of Cleveland for about 156 bands.
Wow.
And we thought we should have won.
Wow. So did you know Joe Walsh, Eric Carmen, some of them people?
Well, Joe Walsh back in the day was a local musician. He had played with the Measles, and he was great. You could tell he was great. Nobody knew he would be as great as he was and as popular. And there was Denny Carleton, who was in the choir, which had the song "It's Cold Outside." He ended up playing with Joe Walsh. He went to college at Ohio State, and I think they both went there, and they actually asked me to play and sing with them. But they were older than me, and it was it was a little scary for me. I was kind of happy in my band, and I didn't ever even think I should do it at all. They were 20 and I was 17 or 18. They were going to college in their second year, it's just different. I didn't feel like that, but I don't even know if Joe Walsh would remember me now. Eric Carmen was I did know Eric Carmen.
He was from Mayfield Heights, I believe.
Something like that, or maybe even Beechwood. I'm not sure, but Eric and I both liked Stevie Marriott, and I saw Eric Carmen at Jane Scott's 80th birthday, the famous PD reporter, and he goes, "Hey, I see your website all the time," and it was just exactly like this kind of mutual, respectful relationship that I remembered. I never played with Eric. I did one time. He asked me to try to play in a band with him, and I took my bass and my friend Dave Alexi. We were going to try to have a band, and it didn't work out. But he was in the Cyrus area at the time when he asked me to do that.
Wow.
But I mean, we're not like buddies or anything.
Yeah, but just so we could get a time frame. So you were with the Lost Souls until about when? When did the Lost Souls kind of move apart or move their own separate ways?
From 65 to 68. I was a junior in high school. During that time, I got thrown out of high school for having long hair, the same with everybody in our band. We were stupid. I went in the newspaper and said I could get away with having long hair and at school and stuff. So, that was... I got the band thrown out, but that was from 65 to 68, and then at the end of 68, the band started to get tired of just playing. I don't know why we got tired of playing. We were playing, but we were changing. We were going to college, first year of college, and we started wanted to do our own originals. So we ended up writing our own songs, and we made a demo. And we recorded a bunch of stuff, and we sent it out, and we were kind of foolish. We just started doing all originals in 1968 with up to this point we had been a cover band doing all the kind of music that people liked from those days, anything from the Doors to the Beatles to a lot of Kinks, a lot of Beatles, a lot of Jimi Hendrix. And
you have a CD of the Lost Souls.
Yeah,
that's available.
Yeah, there's a CD, and then last year it's on Lionheart Productions, and there's a CD, and also there was vinyl, and the vinyl is awesome. Just to put that on the record player and hear your stuff on vinyl. I had to wait a long time, but it came out in 2022. The vinyl came out in 2022, and the CD came out in 2018. But it's beautifully done. And you can Bomp Records would be a good place to check out, or the Lionheart Productions out of Chicago.
I think right now we're at a point where everybody's sitting on the edge of their seats, and we really like to maybe hear a couple of cuts of the Lost Souls and the type of music that you did, and maybe a couple of songs that would really define what the group was about.
Bob, it's kind of hard to define, what was the one song of the Lost Souls. The Lost Souls were a cover band pretty much, except for maybe I do 3 or 4 originals a night. So we were all over the map with kinds of music. But one of the things I'm choosing to play is us doing I Want You, and we're introducing the group. This is back in '65 when we were just first starting after being together about 3 or 4 months, and Denny Merrick had first joined the band, and Rich Schonauer, the late great Rich Schonauer, is introducing the band, and you'll hear us. This was live at St. Felicitas back in 1965. It's I Want You.
Introduce the new Lost Souls. We start out on my left with Ed Kozowski. The lead rhythm for this particular song, our new member Denny Carleton. On bass, Chuck McKinley. On drums, everybody's favorite, Larry Johnson.
That was I Want You, Bob, by the Lost Souls, and it brings back good memories. I think that, to me, the song that I think most people would think of the band, matter of fact, Denny Merrick years later put it out as a single. You can get it on eBay, I think. It's The Love I Won't Admit. And I kind of think that would probably be our biggest song. I'm not positive that. There is a really great video of that. Great because it's such a long time ago and it's well preserved. It's us at the Teen Fair in '67. It's up on YouTube. And it's called My Love I Won't Admit. And very influenced by the Left Bank. Something on My Mind. You can kind of hear that. But it's a nice song. Shows off the band's harmonies, especially Denny and Rich and Chuck.
When I think of all the time I wasted along the way, it makes me stop to wonder out loud, is it that I'm just too proud to say I've broken down and loved someone? You're my love I won't admit, you're my love I won't admit,
Those are the songs that you wrote, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other songs from some of the other songwriters that you might want to point out as being interesting or different or maybe out of the box, or just what really defined the Lost Souls?
Yeah, the one of the things that's really interesting is that Denny Merrick and Chuck McKinley, for some reason, Chuck was the bass player, Denny was lead guitar. They had this thing that sort of sounded like Asian harmonies, or you just have to listen to it. And the funniest thing I remember going on Joe Madigan's show on WJCU, he asked me, Jumpin' Joe Madigan, he does a retro show, or did it on Jen Carroll. Now I think he does it from his home. He has like 6 kids or something, and he doesn't have time to do it at the studio anymore. But I said, well, I want you to hear these songs. What do you describe about after you hear it? He goes, I got nothing. He couldn't figure out how the music came up, how they came up with this music. So this first one is Dare to Surmise. It's by Denny Merrick. If you want to hear more of these things, they're all on YouTube. They're all on Spotify and wherever you listen to music, iTunes, everything. That's Never More Dare to Surmise by Denny Merrick. It's kind of typical for the time of the 60s, but actually some of those Asian type of scales, if you listen, it's really worth listen to some of their material. It's very unusual, and it's cool. I mean, it's really cool. Lost Souls had a couple lives. The Lost Souls, of course, played in the 60s, but in the 1980s, I put their music out on college radio, and it got reviewed everywhere. It got reviewed in Germany, and then now there's another life because the vinyl has been released and the CD has been released on Lionheart Productions. It's a treat. It's still cool and fresh to me. The last one we're going to play, or second last one, is one by Chuck McKinley. He wrote called "Let's Get Away." Once again, he has that Asian sound. In our band, I sang like Bob Dylan or John Lennon or the Kinks, and Denny Merrick sang the Kinks. Rich could sing all kinds of everything like Left Bank. All the harmonies were done by Rich, Chuck, and Danny, and Larry, I think a little bit, but Chuck was our virtuoso singer. He would sing a dramatic song. He would sing Nights in White Satin. So Chuck's voice sounds really good on this one. It's one he wrote. It's called "Let's Get Away, Girl." You hear that Asian thing going on, and then Rich on the flute. I think you got a pretty good description. I would highly recommend listening to these Lost Souls CDs. They're very unique, or downloads, or vinyl. So we had one other thing, and when we first started, we didn't do this after a while, but we had a thing that we did called the Pro Break Song. We had heard some other band do it before they took a break, so we're going to take a little break here, and so the Lost Souls. Here's the Lost Souls doing Pro Break Song.
If you are interested in Denny Carleton's music, videos, or books, check out www.dennycarleton.com. The website is also full of music history, fun photos, and archived radio shows of Denny and his friends. All of Denny's music, videos, and writings are also available on YouTube, Amazon, iTunes, Spotify, and other social media sites. Thanks for listening, and remember to support local music.
Listening to Denny Carleton's Cleveland Music Connection.
Well, you've crossed paths with a lot of musicians. I mean, a lot that are locally known, a number of them that were nationally known. You opened for
McCoy's,
the McCoys, and other nationally known groups.
I got a good story about the McCoys.
Oh, let's hear it.
Okay, the Larry Tomczyk told me this story, the drummer in Lost Souls, and you'd have to know all of that. The times we were all raised pretty much by Depression parents who pinched their pennies and made us be responsible, and there was a certain way that we had to honor the money that we had and everything. So Larry wanted to get a brand new set of Rogers drums. The parents said, as long as you take care of them, Larry, and you pay for it yourself, you certainly can. So Larry, I don't know what he did for a living, if he had a paper route or maybe through the Lost Souls, even some of the money we made from there. He saved up to all of his money. He got the drums, and he got cases for the drums and polished the drums. We had to work for it, and we really appreciate it. So we opened for the McCoys, and the drummer of the McCoys was Rick Derringer, was the lead singer. The drummer from the McCoys comes in, and he's going to use our drums. And he said he was sitting there in the audience, excited that a famous drummer was going to be using it. And the guy came, and he saw the drums, he ripped them up to a different side of what he was supposed to, like he wanted it adjusted. He just ripped them a certain way. So he had these big sticks, and he started off Hang On Sloopy, boom, hitting him so hard. Mm-hmm. And Larry just was picturing his parents being so upset and, like he was going to put a stick through the drums or anything. So I love that story. Larry told me that.
Well, so you must have some pretty good memories with the Lost Souls and getting along in high school while you're becoming so popular on the local scene.
Well, Larry, this actually, again, with Larry Tomczak, Larry and I went to our 50th year reunion. And when we looked, him and I always looked back at it. We were thrown out of high school basically because of long hair. Then we got our hair cut and we came back. And although I didn't totally get my hair cut, I kind of greased it back and got away with it. But we had mixed feelings because at one point there was actually something in the student council meetings that they wanted to find us and beat us up, and nobody said anything about it, in the student council meetings. And so we basically got hassled in school. Because it was the beginning of Beatlemania, a lot of girls liked us. I think some of the guys didn't like it. Plus, we were coming out of a cultural different thing. We were coming out with long hair, and everybody was like the old Fonzie days and stuff, So for all our years, we always had a great time, and we always liked everybody. When we went to our reunion, they started saying the top 10 greatest things at St. Joe's High School. And it was they went through all of the different stuffs, going to Carmela's Pizza and doing this and the so-and-so's homeroom and the mixers, the proms. And number 2 on the list, and nobody said anything. Everybody just looked kind of like whatever, And number 2 on the list, they said, going to see the Lost Souls at the mixers. And the whole place cheered. Wow. And Larry and I were like stunned. We're like, they liked us all these years.
Well, that had to be a moment of awakening. I mean, sometimes the old adage, a prophet is not without honor except in his home.
Or 50 years later.
Or 50 years later. You mentioned before that you actually wrote a song about the Lost Souls. Maybe it would be kind of a cool way to wrap up this segment by can we hear some of it or the lyrics or
I'll do the lyrics and then we'll hear just a little bit of it. When the Lost Souls music came out on vinyl, I saw how many people enjoyed that, and so I wanted to do some sort of a song for them, the people who like the Lost Souls. And so I wrote a song of my memory of it, and I put it. It's on YouTube. It's called "I Wrote a Song for You" by Denny Carleton, and then you'll see almost every photo that I own up there, every kind of little archive photo. It's pretty cool. So the words go: polka dot shirts, silver tone amps, all the Lost Souls crammed into the van. Play music at the dance, 'cause that's what we do. TV wasn't color, it was all brand new. Guitar, roadies, girls, till we were through. Sandy, Jane, and Karen, just to name a few. But I was shy, I didn't know what to do. That's true. So I wrote a song for you. I saw you in the crowd, the band was playing loud. It was all brand new, you were the chosen few. I wrote a song for you. KSC, CYOs, and Hullabaloos, 99 and Rick, and some guy named Drew. My love I won't admit, and I won't tell you. I was falling hard, and I want you. Mods, rockers, greasers, collegiates, there's a few. In school, hiding long hair, it really was true. There's nothing about this that can be painted blue. I wrote a song for you. I saw you in the crowd. The band was playing loud. It was all brand new. You were the chosen few. I wrote a song for you. One thing I know, though it happened long ago, the love we had was true. Our one-on-one is true. I wrote a song for you. I wrote a song for you. And here's my favorite part. Striped shirts, mini skirts, love at first glance. There's 1,000 little stories in every single dance. I can't go back in time, so I did what I do. I wrote a song for you.
That's wonderful. And now we're going to hear part of it. If you want to hear the whole montage or see the montage and hear the whole song on YouTube, what are the key words?
I wrote a song for you, Denny Carleton. And if you want any more information, just check out the website, dennycarleton.com. Thanks,
Excellent.
Bob. You really do a great job. I really appreciate it. I really do.
You're a pleasure always to talk to.
We have a history, don't we?
Absolutely.
Well, we could talk about our history sometime.
Oh, that'd be a good idea.
That'd be a
lot of fun.
Okay. I'll see you. Bye.
Polka dot shirts, silver tone amps, all the lost souls crammed into the van. The music at the dance, 'cause that's what we do. TV was in color, it was all brand new. Guitar roadies, girls, till we were through. Sandy, Jean, and Karen, just to name a few. But I was shy, didn't know what to do, so I wrote a song for you. I saw you in the crowd.
Hey, thanks for listening. This is Denny Carleton for the Cleveland Music Connection, story behind the song. See you around in the neighborhood or see you online sometime. And thanks a lot for listening.